I stared at the email on my phone for what felt like an eternity, though it was probably only 30 seconds. The subject line was clinical, impersonal. Pathology results. Please schedule appointment. My hands were shaking. Not the tremor of fear, something worse. The tremor of understanding that everything I'd been planning, everything I'd convinced myself was justified, had just become impossible. The doctor wanted to see me in person. That's what they do when it's bad news. I was sitting in the parking lot of Riverside Medical, my silver Mercedes idling in a spot near the emergency entrance, and I couldn't bring myself to go inside. My phone buzzed, a text from Lauren. "Running late to the dinner party, can you pick up wine? The Pinot Grigio, not the Chardonnay." Even her texts were instructions. That was our marriage, distilled into 2 sentences. I didn't respond. 3 weeks earlier, I'd made a decision I thought was final, irrevocable, already set in motion. I was going to leave her. Not for anyone else, that's what made it complicated, but for myself, for the possibility of breathing again. But this email changed something. Not everything. Not yet. But enough to make me sit in a car in a parking lot at 5 in the afternoon, unable to move, unable to think past the next 48 hours. Let me back up. Because to understand why that email felt like a punch in the stomach, you need to know who I was before it arrived. My name is Michael Henderson. I'm 46 years old, and on the surface, I had everything figured out. I still do, technically. The house in Riverside is a 1970s colonial that Lauren and I spent 3 years renovating. Custom kitchen, original hardwoods, a wraparound porch that makes the neighbors jealous. The property taxes are brutal, and the HOA fees are worse, but it's ours. Or mostly ours. The mortgage is paid down to $380,000, which feels manageable on my salary. I'm a regional sales director at Precision Manufacturing, a job I've held for 8 years. Good benefits, solid 401k match, quarterly bonuses that usually hit between $20,000 and $30,000. Lauren is beautiful. I say that not out of love anymore, but out of simple fact. She's 43, blonde, always put together. She runs the marketing department at a mid-sized tech firm in the city, 40 minutes north. We met at a bar in 2009, hooked up that same night, and within 2 years we were engaged. Within 3, we were married. It happened the way these things do when you're young enough to believe momentum equals destiny. Our daughter, Emma, is 14. She's smart, quiet, artistic, more like her mother in temperament, though she has my dark hair. She's in 8th grade at Riverside Middle, gets straight A's, does the whole advanced placement track. She barely speaks to me anymore, which is its own kind of heartbreak, but that's what happens when you live in a house with someone and haven't actually connected in 5 years. The money part was always the easiest to manage. My salary covers the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, groceries, utilities. Lauren's income, which is slightly higher than mine, something she reminds me of every tax season, goes to everything else. Vacations to Montego Bay, the new Tesla she leased last year, Emma's private tutoring for math, even though she doesn't need it. We have a $7,000 emergency fund. It's pathetic for a household making $230 a year combined, but it's there. On the surface, this looked like success. From the outside, people saw a man in a navy suit with a corner office, a wife in designer jeans at the grocery store, a daughter in soccer uniforms and school plays. We took a family photo every Christmas for the holiday card. I still have them, actually. 2015 to 2022. 8 years of us smiling at the camera like we meant it. The rot started earlier than I want to admit. Maybe around year 5 of the marriage. Maybe earlier. I was working late one night. Legitimately late, not an excuse. And Lauren came to pick me up from the office at 9 p.m. She was angry about something. I can't remember what anymore. Probably something stupid, like I'd forgotten to put the dishes in the dishwasher, or I was supposed to help Emma with homework. I was tired, and I said something dismissive. Not cruel, just dismissive. And she looked at me in the car with this expression of such complete contempt that I felt it like a physical thing. "You check out," she said. "You're not actually here anymore. You're just going through the motions." She wasn't wrong, but I didn't have the energy to argue or explain, so I didn't say anything. I just drove home. And that became our pattern. Not fighting, just absence. She'd talk at me about her day, and I'd listen with maybe 40% of my brain, while the other 60% was anywhere else. She'd want to have sex, and I'd oblige, but there was no joy in it, no connection. It was like cleaning a sink, a chore that needed doing. I didn't tell anyone about this. I didn't go to therapy. I didn't have a come-to-Jesus moment with myself. I just accepted it as the cost of adult life. This is what marriage is, I told myself. This is what happens when you've been with someone for 15 years. The spark dies. You settle. You endure. Then I met Victoria Chen in June. She's the vice president of operations at my company. 42 years old, divorced, no kids. We'd worked together for 3 years before anything shifted, but this spring there was a major account in Seattle, and we got sent out together for a week to close the deal. 7 days in a hotel, working late, eating room service dinners, and somewhere around day 4, she looked at me across a table at Pike Place Market and said, "You look sad all the time. Have you noticed that?" I hadn't, but I thought about it. We didn't sleep together that week, not in Seattle, but something cracked open in me. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not judged, not criticized, not assigned tasks and expectations. Just seen. We talked about everything, our childhoods, our failures, the marriages we'd chosen wrong. She told me she'd left her husband because she realized she was the only one trying. She was tired of building a bridge from one side of the river. "Did you ever love him?" I asked her once, at a hotel bar, drinking old fashions. "Yes," she said. "But love without respect is just habit, and habit isn't enough." When I got home, Lauren was already asleep. Emma was upstairs in her room. The house felt like a museum of my own life, preserved and untouched. I lay in bed next to my wife and felt the weight of every decision that had led me to that moment. Every choice to stay quiet. Every moment I'd chosen the path of least resistance over honesty. By August, Victoria and I were meeting for lunch. By September, we were meeting in hotel rooms. I know how that sounds. I know what I look like from the outside. A middle-aged man cheating on his wife, lying to his daughter, compartmentalizing his life like a coward. But from the inside, it felt like the first honest thing I'd done in a decade. In October, I made the decision. I was going to leave. I'd talk to a divorce attorney, figure out the logistics, the custody arrangement, the financial split. I had a friend from college whose brother practices family law in the city. I called him for a consultation. He told me I'd likely owe Lauren alimony, probably child support to Emma's 18th birthday, and we'd split assets roughly 50-50, minus what I could claim as separate property. My 401k would be divided. The house would likely need to be sold. Best case scenario, the whole thing would cost me $30,000 to $40,000 in legal fees, and I'd end up in a one-bedroom apartment in a less nice part of town while Lauren and Emma stayed in the house. I didn't care, or I thought I didn't. I was ready to do it. I had the consultation on a Thursday. I was going to talk to an attorney the following week and start the paperwork by Thanksgiving. Then, on a Monday morning in early November, my doctor's office called with a routine message. "We need to see you about your recent blood work. Can you come in this week?" My annual physical had been 6 weeks earlier. Boring, standard, nothing unusual. I'd given blood, got weighed, did the blood pressure thing. Everything was fine. Or so I thought. I scheduled an appointment for Wednesday at 4 p.m. I didn't think much about it. Maybe my cholesterol was slightly elevated. Maybe they wanted me to lose 10 pounds, which, fair, I was heavier than I used to be. I'd stopped going to the gym around the time Victoria and I started meeting because I was paranoid about the timing, the location, the possibility of running into someone I knew. Wednesday came. I was in a client meeting when my phone buzzed with an appointment reminder. I ignored it, finished the meeting, and drove to the office. Dr. Patricia Morrison is younger than me, maybe late 30s, and she has this way of looking at you that makes you feel like she can see through to your actual problem, not just the symptoms you're describing. She closed the door behind me and told me to sit down. Not a good sign. Michael, your blood work came back with some abnormalities. Nothing we want to panic about, but we do want to investigate. She pulled up my lab results on her computer. Your PSA is elevated. That's prostate-specific antigen. It could be a lot of things: infection, inflammation, or it could be nothing. But we should do a biopsy just to be safe. Prostate cancer. The word wasn't said, but it was there in the room with us, hanging in the air like smoke. How elevated? I asked. It's at 6.8. Anything under 4.0 is typically considered normal. But I want to be clear, elevated PSA doesn't mean cancer. It means we need to look closer. A biopsy. 12 tiny samples of tissue, inserted through the rectum, extracted, and sent to a lab. She explained the procedure, the risks, the timeline. I nodded like I was absorbing information, but my brain was somewhere else. I was thinking about Victoria, about the attorney, about the emails I drafted to Lauren that I hadn't sent, about Emma, who still didn't know any of this. I left the office with a referral to a urologist and an appointment scheduled for the following week. The biopsy was booked for November 19th. I didn't tell anyone. Not Victoria, not Lauren, not my mother, though she calls every Sunday and would have immediately sensed something was wrong. I just walked around for a week like I was living in a dream, watching myself go through the motions of my life from somewhere outside my body. And then, this evening, I got the email from the pathology lab. Results available. Please call to schedule an appointment with a doctor to discuss. Which is why I was sitting in a parking lot, unable to move, understanding that everything I'd planned was now suspended in some kind of terrible limbo. Not canceled, not changed, just paused. And I had no idea how long that pause would last, or what would happen when it ended. My phone buzzed again, a text from Victoria this time. Can we see each other tonight? I need to see you. I stared at the message. Then I put the phone down and finally got out of the car to go inside. Dr. Morrison's office was on the 3rd floor of a glass building that smelled like carpet cleaner and desperation. I sat in the waiting room for 20 minutes, watching a woman across from me cry silently into a tissue, and I wondered if she'd gotten bad news too, or if she was just waiting for hers. When the doctor called me back, she wasn't smiling. That was the first sign. The second was that she closed the door behind us and gestured to the chair across from her desk like we were about to have a serious conversation, not a quick consultation. Michael, I got your biopsy results back yesterday. She pulled up a file on her computer, not looking at me yet. The pathology report shows prostate cancer. It's localized to the prostate gland itself, which is the best possible scenario if you're going to have this diagnosis. The words didn't land. They floated past me like I was hearing them through water. How, I started, but my voice came out like I hadn't used it in days. I cleared my throat. How bad? It's stage 2. The Gleason score is 6, which means it's moderately differentiated. We caught it early, which matters. Your PSA was elevated, but not astronomically so. If we're going to find prostate cancer, this is the version you want. Stage 2. Cancer. The word kept bouncing around in my skull like it didn't belong there, like it was a mistake, like she was reading from the wrong file. What does that mean, in terms of... I couldn't finish the sentence. In terms of what? Survival? Time? The life I'd been planning to blow up 3 weeks ago? It means we have options. We can do surgery, a radical prostatectomy, where we remove the entire prostate. We can do radiation therapy. Or we can do what's called active surveillance, where we monitor it closely with regular PSA tests and biopsies, and only intervene if it starts to progress. And if I don't do anything? If you do active surveillance and it progresses, we treat it then. But honestly, Michael, at your age and with your score, I'd recommend surgery. It's the most definitive treatment. The cancer is contained, and removing the prostate removes the cancer. The most definitive treatment. Surgery. They'd cut into me, remove an organ, and I'd wake up in a hospital bed with a catheter and a scar and the knowledge that I'd never be the same. I'd read about this stuff, back when I was researching things on WebMD at 3 in the morning. Erectile dysfunction, incontinence, nerve damage. What happens after? I asked. After surgery, you'll need about 6 weeks of recovery. No heavy lifting, no strenuous activity. You'll have a catheter for a couple of weeks. There will be some discomfort, some bleeding. She saw my face. It's manageable. And then you'll go back to your normal life. We'll monitor your PSA levels, do imaging to make sure there's no recurrence. Normal life. I almost laughed. My normal life was about to be divorce papers and hotel rooms with Victoria, and a 1-bedroom apartment and a custody schedule that revolved around Emma's school calendar. And now it was also cancer. Surgery. Recovery. Weakness. I need to think about this, I said. Of course. But I'd like to schedule the surgery for next month, if you decide to go that route. The sooner we remove it, the better. Here's a pamphlet about treatment options. I'd also recommend talking to a urologist who specializes in prostate cancer surgery. I'll send you a referral. I left her office with a folder full of papers I couldn't read and a head full of static. I sat in my car in the parking garage for an hour, just staring at the concrete wall in front of me. I called my office and told them I wasn't feeling well and was heading home. Then I drove to a hotel near the airport, not the one Victoria and I usually went to, somewhere different, somewhere anonymous. And I sat in a dark room and tried to understand what my life had just become. My phone buzzed constantly. A text from Lauren. "Where are you? We have the Hendersons coming over for dinner tonight. Did you forget?" A text from Victoria. "Call me." An email from my boss about a client meeting on Monday. I turned the phone off. I must have slept because I woke up at 11 p.m. in the dark with my heart hammering. For a few seconds, I didn't remember why I was in a hotel room. Then it came back. Cancer. The word was like a stone in my chest. I thought about leaving, just not going back, getting in my car and driving until I hit the ocean, until I was far enough away that none of this could touch me. But I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the courage. I just lay there in the dark and felt like I was drowning. The next morning, I went home. Lauren was furious, which was so normal, so predictable, that it almost felt like a relief, something I could understand. "Where the hell were you?" she demanded when I walked in the kitchen. She was still in her robe, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. Emma was upstairs, probably still asleep. It was Saturday. "The Hendersons waited for an hour. I had to cancel. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was?" "I'm sorry," I said. "I wasn't feeling well." "You weren't feeling well, so you just disappeared? You didn't call, you didn't text, you just vanished like a fucking ghost?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized that she didn't know me at all. Not really. She knew the version of me that paid the mortgage and showed up to dinner parties and smiled in family photos. She didn't know the version that was sitting in a hotel room last night, thinking about driving into the ocean. She didn't know the version that had cancer growing inside him. And I didn't have the energy to tell her. I needed some space, I said, which was true in a way she'd never understand. "Space," she laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "That's what you call it when you're being a selfish asshole?" I walked out of the kitchen. I went upstairs to my office, a small room off the master bedroom that I used for work calls, and I closed the door. Then I opened my laptop and I started looking up things I probably shouldn't have been looking up. Prostate cancer survival rates, surgery outcomes, side effects, erectile dysfunction in men under 50. The forums were full of men talking about their experiences, and most of them said the same thing. It was worse than they expected, and it was worth it because they were alive. I didn't feel alive. I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere else, observing a man who was slowly disappearing. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "I'm worried. Where are you? Why aren't you responding?" I stared at the message for a long time. Victoria, who I'd been planning to run away with. Victoria, who represented freedom and honesty and the possibility of being someone other than who I was. Victoria, who didn't know that I had cancer, that I was about to have surgery, that everything I'd promised her was now suspended in some kind of terrible uncertainty. I couldn't tell her. Not yet. I didn't even know how to say it out loud. Instead, I typed, "Something came up. I can't see you for a while. I'll explain soon." The response came back almost immediately. "Michael, talk to me. What's going on?" And I couldn't. I just couldn't. So I turned my phone off again and sat in the silence of my office and felt like I was disappearing into it, like I was becoming a ghost in my own house. The weekend passed like I was moving through water. Lauren was cold to me, which was normal. Emma barely acknowledged my existence, which was also normal. I made breakfast on Sunday, and Lauren sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee and checking her phone, not speaking to me. Emma came down in her pajamas and grabbed a bagel and went back upstairs. No one asked how I was feeling. No one noticed that something had fundamentally changed. On Monday morning, I went back to work. I sat in my office and I had a client call and I pretended to be the person they thought I was. The competent regional sales director. The guy who closed deals and made his numbers. The guy who had his life together. At lunch, my phone buzzed. An email from Victoria's personal address. "I need to see you. This is important." I ignored it. I ate a sandwich at my desk and I stared at spreadsheets and I felt like I was slowly turning to stone. By Wednesday, she'd sent 5 more emails, called twice, left a voicemail that I deleted without listening to. On Thursday, she was waiting for me in the parking garage. I saw her as I was walking to my car after work. She was leaning against the wall near my spot, wearing a black coat, her dark hair pulled back tight. Her face was pale, and she looked angry in a way I'd never seen before. "You're avoiding me," she said, not a question. "Victoria, this isn't the place." "Then where? You won't answer your phone. You won't respond to emails. You're acting like I don't exist." I looked around the garage, empty, just the two of us and the concrete pillars and the echo of her voice. "I need to tell you something," I said, "but not here, not now." "Then when? When are you going to man up and actually talk to me?" The phrase hit different now. Man up. Like there was something inherently weak about what I was about to tell her. Like admitting that your body was betraying you, that you had cancer, that surgery was going to take something fundamental from you. Like that was the opposite of being a man. "I have cancer," I said. It was the first time I'd said it out loud to anyone other than the doctor. The words felt foreign, like they belonged to someone else. Victoria's face changed. The anger drained out of it, replaced by something I couldn't read. "What?" "Prostate cancer, stage 2. I found out last week." She stepped closer to me. "Michael, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I'm still processing it. Because I don't know what it means yet. Because everything I was planning, everything we were planning." I stopped. I couldn't finish. "Are you going to be okay?" The question was so simple, so direct, that I almost broke. "Are you going to be okay?" As if okay was a destination I could reach if I just tried hard enough. As if I could go back to being the person I was before I got this news. "I don't know," I said. "I'm going to have surgery. In a few weeks. After that, we'll see." A few weeks? Probably December, before the holidays. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We need to talk about what this means, for us." And there it was, the question I'd been avoiding, the thing that made this real in a different way. "I know," I said. "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're checking out, and I can't—" She stopped, composed herself. "I can't be the person who sticks around out of pity. That's not what this is. That's not what we are. I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you asking? Because right now it feels like you're asking me to just wait, to put my life on hold while you figure out yours." The garage was so quiet I could hear my own breathing. The sound of it was ragged, uneven. "I don't know what I'm asking," I admitted. "I don't know anything anymore." "Then figure it out," she said, "and call me when you do." She walked away, her footsteps echoing off the concrete, and I stood there in the half-light of the parking garage and realized that I'd just lost something I hadn't even gotten yet. The version of my life where I was free, where I was with someone who saw me, where everything was simple and honest. That version was gone now. It had died the moment Dr. Morrison said the word cancer. I got in my car and I drove home, and I didn't know how I was going to tell Lauren, didn't know how I was going to tell Emma, didn't know how I was going to be the man that everyone needed me to be when I could barely recognize myself anymore. The surgery was scheduled for December 15th. Lauren found out about it the way she found out about most things in our marriage, accidentally, by reading an email notification on my laptop that I'd left open on the kitchen counter. I was in the shower when she came in, and I heard her before I saw her, the sound of her voice cutting through the steam, sharp and controlled in a way that meant she was angry but trying not to be. "Michael, we need to talk." I turned off the water, grabbed a towel. When I came out, she was standing in the bedroom with her phone in her hand, her face carefully blank. "Your doctor sent a reminder about your pre-op appointment," she said. "Prostate cancer surgery, December 15th. The words hung there between us like something physical. I'd been planning to tell her. I swear I had. But every moment I thought about doing it, I'd lose my nerve. How do you tell someone you've been planning to leave that you're sick? How do you ask for compassion from someone you've already betrayed? "Yes," I said. "I was going to tell you." "When? After the surgery? While you were recovering? Or were you planning to move out and just not mention it?" She knew. Or at least, she suspected. Warren wasn't stupid. She'd noticed Victoria and me in the office. She'd seen the late nights, the careful distance I kept from her, the way I checked my phone every 5 seconds like I was waiting for rescue. "Lauren, don't." She held up a hand. "Just don't. I don't want to hear whatever story you're about to tell me. I want to know one thing. Are you going to die?" The question was so blunt, so direct, that it knocked the wind out of me. "No," I said. "The doctor says the prognosis is good. Stage 2, early detection. Surgery should take care of it." She nodded slowly. Then she turned and walked out of the bedroom without saying anything else. That night, she told Emma. I wasn't there for it. I was in my office, trying to work, trying to pretend that my life wasn't imploding in slow motion. Emma came in around 8 o'clock, and I could tell from her face that she'd been crying. "Mom says you have cancer," she said. Not a question. "Yes, but it's going to be okay. The doctors caught it early and—" "Does that mean you're going to die?" Jesus, the same question, the same fear that everyone had. "No, baby, I'm not going to die. I'm going to have surgery, and then I'm going to recover, and everything's going to be fine." "Then why do you look so scared?" I didn't have an answer for that. Because I was scared. Not of dying. The statistics were good. The doctors were optimistic. I was scared of what came after, of waking up different, of being weak when I needed to be strong, of losing the version of myself that I'd been planning to become. Emma sat down on the edge of my desk. She was still in her school clothes, Navy uniform, white socks, the whole thing. At 14, she was already taller than her mother, with her mother's sharp cheekbones and my dark hair. She looked so young and so old at the same time. "Are you leaving?" she asked. The question hit me like a punch. "What?" "Mom thinks you're leaving. That's why she's been so angry. That's why you're always gone. You're leaving, and now you have cancer and you don't know what to do." I couldn't lie to her, not when she was sitting right there, seeing straight through me. "I don't know," I said. "A lot of things are complicated right now." "Because of work?" "No, because of—" I stopped. "How do you explain to your 14-year-old daughter that her father is a coward, that he's been living a double life, that he met someone else, that he was planning to blow up his family because he couldn't stand to be in his own house anymore?" "Because I haven't been a very good husband," I said finally, "and I haven't been a very good father. And I was trying to figure out how to fix that. And then this happened, and now I don't know how to fix anything." Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You should tell the truth." "About what?" "About everything. Mom deserves to know. I deserve to know. And you deserve to not have to keep lying." She got up and walked out, leaving me sitting there in my office in the dark, understanding that my 14-year-old daughter was smarter than I was, braver than I was, better than I was. The next morning, I called Victoria. She answered on the third ring, like she'd been waiting for me to call. "Michael." "Hi," I said. "I need to see you." "I thought you were done with me." "I was. I am. I don't know." I pressed my forehead against the cold window of my office. Outside, the parking lot was gray and empty. "I need to tell you something." We met at a coffee shop that neither of us had been to before, neutral territory. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a black coffee in front of her. She looked thinner than I remembered, tired. "Hi," she said when I sat down. "Hi." "You look terrible," she said, not unkindly. "I am terrible." She stirred her coffee, watching the milk swirl. "Tell me." So I did. I told her about the cancer, about the surgery, about how I'd been planning to leave Lauren but didn't know how to anymore. I told her about Emma's question, about the truth that was sitting in my chest like a stone. "What do you want me to say?" she asked when I finished. "I don't know. I wanted to see you. I wanted to know if—" I stopped. "I don't know what I wanted." "You wanted to know if I'd wait," she said. "If I'd be here when you got through this." "Would you?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "No," she said. "I wouldn't. I can't. Michael, I care about you. But I can't be the person who sticks around while you figure out your life. That's not fair to me. And honestly, it's not fair to you either. So that's it? That's it. I hope the surgery goes well. I hope you get better. And I hope you figure out how to be honest with the people who actually matter." She left without finishing her coffee. I sat there and watched her walk out, and I realized that I'd lost her completely. Not because I had cancer, but because I'd been a coward. Because I'd wanted everything: the safety of my marriage, the excitement of Victoria, the freedom of leaving, without being willing to actually choose anything. The pre-op appointment was on December 10th. Lauren drove me. We didn't talk much. She played music on the radio, some pop station that Emma liked, and I stared out the window and tried not to think about what was coming. The hospital was sterile and white and full of people in scrubs rushing back and forth, like they had more important places to be. Dr. Morrison went over the procedure again, explained the risks, had me sign forms acknowledging that I understood those risks. Erectile dysfunction, urinary incontinence, nerve damage, death, though that was rare. "Do you have any questions?" she asked. I didn't. I just wanted it over with. "You'll need someone to pick you up after surgery," she said. "You won't be able to drive for at least a week, and you'll need help at home for the first few days. Someone to change the dressing, help you with the catheter, make sure you're taking your medications. Lauren raised her hand like she was in school. I'll do it. Dr. Morrison nodded. Great. And Michael, I want to see you in my office after the procedure. We'll need to talk about recovery and next steps. The night before surgery, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Lauren, who was also awake, staring at the ceiling in the dark. At some point around 3 a.m, she rolled over and looked at me. Are you scared? She asked. Yes. Of the surgery or of what comes after? Both. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm scared too. Of what? That you're going to wake up from this and realize that I'm not enough. That nothing I do is ever going to be enough. That you're going to leave anyway, and I'm going to be alone, and Emma is going to have to choose between us. I wanted to tell her that wasn't true. That I wasn't planning to leave anymore. That cancer had changed everything. That I wanted to try to make things work. But I realized, lying there in the dark, that those would have been lies. Because the truth was, I still didn't know what I wanted. I still felt trapped. The cancer hadn't fixed that. It had just put it on pause. I don't know what I'm going to want, I said finally. But I know that I need to figure it out without lying, without sneaking around, without pretending to be someone I'm not. Is that supposed to make me feel better? No, I think you deserve better than that. I think Emma deserves better than that. Lauren turned away from me and pulled the covers up to her chin. Just get through the surgery, she said. We can figure out the rest later. I woke up in the recovery room with a catheter and a pain pump and the distinct sense that something fundamental had shifted inside me. Not just physically, though there was that too, a hollowed out feeling where my prostate used to be, but emotionally, spiritually. Like I'd stepped outside of my own life and couldn't quite get back in. Lauren was there when they moved me to my room. She brought flowers from the hospital gift shop and sat in the chair next to the bed and read her phone while I drifted in and out of consciousness. How are you feeling? She asked when my eyes finally stayed open. Like I got hit by a truck. That's normal. The doctor said the surgery went perfectly. Clean margins, no complications. Clean margins. Medical speak for, we got all the cancer out. That's good, I said. It is. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, it was dark outside, and Emma was sitting in the chair instead of Lauren. Hi, Dad, she said. Hey, baby. You look like you're dying. I feel like it. She smiled a little. Mom said the surgery went well. That's what they told me. I'm glad. I was scared. Me too. She reached over and took my hand. Her palm was warm and small, and I realized how long it had been since I'd actually touched my daughter. How long it had been since I'd been present enough to notice that she needed me. I love you, I said. I know I haven't said that in a while. I know I haven't shown it. But I do. I know, she said. Mom said you're going to need help recovering. I'm going to stay home from school for a couple days and help. You don't have to do that. I know, but I want to. Recovery was harder than I expected. The first week was a blur of pain and medication and the humiliation of having my wife change the dressing on my surgical wound. By the second week, I could walk short distances without the pain being overwhelming. By the third week, the catheter came out, and I learned the hard way that prostate cancer surgery comes with a cost. The first time I tried to pee, I couldn't stop. It just kept coming until I'd flooded the bathroom and had to sit there on the toilet crying with shame and frustration. Lauren found me like that. She didn't say anything. She just helped me clean up, changed my clothes, and left pads on the bathroom counter without comment. It took 6 weeks before I could sit through a meeting without needing to get up and find a bathroom. 6 weeks before I could sleep through the night. 6 weeks before I started to feel like myself again. Or, at least, like whatever version of myself I was going to be from now on. One morning in late January, I was sitting on the back porch, something I could finally do without severe discomfort, when Lauren came out with 2 cups of coffee. She handed me one and sat down next to me. We need to talk, she said. About us. My stomach dropped. This was it. This was the moment where she asked me to leave. "Okay," I said. "I know you were planning to leave," she said, "before you got sick. I know you have feelings for someone else. I know that you've been unhappy for a long time, and that this marriage has been—" She paused, searching for the word. "It's been a failure on both of our parts." I didn't argue. It was true. "But," she continued, "I also know that you got sick and you didn't run. You didn't use it as an excuse to disappear. You came home and you let us take care of you, and you let yourself be vulnerable. And that changed something." "I don't know if it changed enough," I said honestly. "I know. And that's why I think we should go to marriage counseling. Not because I think it's going to magically fix things, but because I think we owe it to each other to actually try, to actually talk, to actually figure out if there's anything left to save, or if we're just going through the motions." It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't the kind of conclusion that makes people feel good. But it was honest. It was real. "Okay," I said. "I'll go." We found a therapist, Dr. James Chen, who had a small practice in the city and a way of cutting through bullshit that reminded me of my urologist. For the first 3 months, every Thursday night, Lauren and I sat in his office and had the hardest conversations of our marriage. We talked about Victoria, about the distance between us, about how we'd stopped being partners and started being roommates. We talked about what we wanted, what we needed, whether those things were compatible. It wasn't easy. There were nights when Lauren cried, nights when I got angry and defensive, nights when we both wondered if we were just prolonging the inevitable. But slowly, something shifted. We started to see each other again. Not the versions of ourselves that we wanted to be or thought we should be, but the actual, flawed, human versions. And we started to understand that maybe what had felt like the end was actually just the beginning of something different. 3 months into therapy, Dr. Chen asked me a question. "If you weren't sick, would you have left?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. "Yes," I said. "I think I would have." "And now?" "Now I don't know. I'm not sure if I stay because things have gotten better, or because I'm scared of being alone, or because I feel like I owe it to Lauren because she took care of me. I don't know if that's a good enough reason to stay in a marriage." "What do you think would be a good enough reason?" Dr. Chen asked. I looked at Lauren. She was looking back at me, waiting. "The possibility," I said finally. "The possibility that things could be different, that we could actually be honest with each other, that I could stop lying and she could stop resenting me for things I haven't told her about, that we could actually build something real instead of just maintaining the illusion of something that died a long time ago." Lauren took my hand. "I think that's worth trying for," she said. By the time summer rolled around, my PSA levels were undetectable. The cancer was gone. I still had the side effects. The incontinence was better, but not perfect, and sex was complicated in ways I wasn't quite ready to talk about. But I was alive, and I was cancer-free, and I was slowly learning how to be a human being again. Victoria left the company in March. I heard through the grapevine that she took a job with a firm on the West Coast, that she was happy, that she'd met someone. I was glad for her. I'd taken something from her, possibility, time, hope, and I was grateful that she'd managed to find it somewhere else. As for me, I'm still married to Lauren. We're not deliriously happy. We still argue. There are still days when I feel the weight of my choices, when I wonder what my life would look like if I'd had the courage to be honest earlier, if I'd actually left instead of just fantasizing about it. But there's also something different now. There's actual communication. There's vulnerability. There's the understanding that marriage isn't about staying because you have to. It's about staying because you choose to, every single day, with full knowledge of what you're choosing. Emma goes to therapy too now, something that Lauren and I insisted on after she got sick from the stress of our marriage falling apart. She's doing better. She's still quiet, still artistic, still processing everything that happened. But she talks to us now. She comes home from school and tells us about her day. She jokes with me about my recovery. Dad's wearing another pad, so no jumping on the couch, which is its own kind of healing. I think about that email from the pathology lab sometimes, the one that changed everything. I think about how cancer, of all the things in my life, turned out to be the thing that saved me. Not from dying. The survival rate for stage 2 prostate cancer is high, but from becoming someone I couldn't respect anymore. The worst part of having